Are they propping the felon up to look better in public? And what was his reaction to being asked about his health or death? Let's look into all of that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting, sharing the videos. Sharing the videos, it particularly helps the algorithm, as does commenting and liking. So huge thank you for doing all of those wonderful things. Okay, so the felon had a press conference. Some people commented that he looked well. I would argue he did not, but to each their own. Um, but are they giving him something to prop him up? We've thought this for a while, so let's just relook at it. See, maybe going through some sort of dialysis treatment, right? So therefore he feels better after that's happened, or possibly even blood transfusions, things along those lines. And what was his real reaction when he was asked about his health and death? Uh, what I picked up on was not what was said. So we'll talk about that as well. Will the government shut down at the end of the month? We'll look at that. Will National Guard troops actually be sent to Chicago? And is China going to do something to embarrass the felon? Um, Maybe compare their military parades? Something along those lines. Let's start with that. So, um, yeah, is China going to do something to try to embarrass him? So, um, it does feel like uh, China and India and Russia and to a lesser extent North Korea really want to get a handle, like an upper hand in the trade fights. So I do think that they're going to go out of their way to um, make the felon look bad because they don't think they're going to be negotiating with the felon. They just don't see that happening. Like, there's no sense in negotiating with him. So they're playing the long game. And they also kind of realize that they don't need the United States to the extent that the United States thinks that, or to the extent that the felon thinks that they need the United States. So, so is China going to do something to embarrass him? I just keep, it feels like Russian propaganda footage of the military parades uh, being shown next to each other and spread around um, on various social media platforms, but in particular, targeting people in the United States is what it feels like to me. Yeah, the seed's been planted. Um, they know how this channel and like-minded individuals like us think about that military debacle this summer. And I think they're going to make this an issue again by showing what their military parades look like in relationship to whatever that was in June that we all witnessed. And I feel like these things are gonna be circulating on Twitter and TikTok and lesser extent YouTube, but definitely it's gonna be around there. Of course, China's having their big parade. I'm recording this on I guess Tuesday late afternoon. So the big military parade will be here in a few hours. Um, we wish fulfillment, the environment around, and then it's all about legacy. It's about destroying his legacy, or at least in his eyes, destroying his legacy. So having him look weak and feckless is a win as far as China and Russia are concerned, to a lesser extent, North Korea, even to a lesser extent, India, because I think India actually just wants fair trade policies. But the judgment card, they're going to do something that creates a comparison. Now, most of us won't fall for it, but the MAGA folks that are easily manipulated will, and it'll make him look even more weak to them. Yeah, and wounded in battle, the Five of Swords at the center of the reading. That's their goal, right? Is to make him look very, very weak, to make him look like he's in this huge defensive posture, like they've backed him into a corner, whether reality or not, it doesn't matter. Perception is everything, right? So um, it is to influence voters. It's a little bit ironic, but I think, at this point in time, China in particular would very much like the Democrats to control the House. And I don't say that to be divisive, but I think that that is accurate. They just don't want any more unilateral craziness. They want predictability too. And, you know, there's going to be a huge amount of push to divide the left as we go into 2026 and even later in the election cycle this year. And it's going to come from a multiple different directions. So we had to be very careful about that. And I think the best kind of way to go about it is just to, um, you know, believe very little and be very skeptical. I think that's probably the best approach. The Nine of Pentacles, China definitely has everything that it needs to make him look weak. And this is a surprising new beginning because this is the first time that they're not only going to embarrass a US president, they're going to do it in a way that the country is embarrassed of him as well. Now, a lot of us are already embarrassed of him. So, but to get to that 50% mark is going to be the first time. So the seeds have already been planted that he's weak and they're ready to take this to the next level. Voters already think that he's weak. And uh, voters already think that he's leaving a horrible legacy. Uh, China wants to make that worse. In the environment around, we got the Nine of Cups, wish fulfillment, him being on the defense, the Nine of Pentacles, China having everything that they need to accomplish this goal of having the American people judge the person in the White House as incompetent, inept, and dangerous. And they're not wrong. That's why it's kind of a brilliant plan. So expect some weird videos in the next, 3, 4 weeks comparing the felon to China, comparing the US military to the Chinese military, comparing things along those lines. Um, Underneath, we got the Three of Wands. It's inevitable. And the Four of Swords. They know he's sick and that he can't help himself. But to continue, like once he's embarrassed, he's going to continue down the road. He's not going to stop bringing it up. Just like Epstein, he's going to continue to bring that up too. Uh, we'll get more into the Epstein documents once we know more about what was actually released. My guess is not much, but um, okay. Uh, so let's look at, will the National Guard actually be in Chicago? So there was a court ruling saying that the felon illegally used the National Guard in Los Angeles. Chicago's a big city with many diverse political opinions. So it's not hard for media like Fox News and OAN and Newsmax to go in and find people that want the National Guard to be there. That is not the overwhelming consensus of Chicagoans. So, but will he actually do it? He didn't state a timeline for this. I do think there will be immediate lawsuits. The reason why the lawsuit wasn't in LA can't be applied to Chicago is because of the previous Supreme Court ruling that, judges can't rule based on the entire country. They need to rule on their particular district. So, yeah, let's see. There's two cards stuck together. We get the sun card, full illumination. We're gonna know. We're gonna know when this is gonna happen. If it happens, I think it is gonna happen because I in the environment around we get the chariot card, which is forward movement and just movement. I don't think the National Guard's going to do anything um, because I think they'll be ordered out rather quickly. Uh, we get the Page of Swords, the spy in the camp. Um, I've always seen, the National Guard just basically sitting there, like just not doing anything. And and while that should not happen, that's probably what's going to happen. The Ace of Swords, the truth. Why is he targeting Los Angeles, Baltimore, and Chicago? He's it's because they're in blue states. That's really the reason why. I mean, Houston has a pretty high crime rate. Not targeting that, not targeting San Antonio or Dallas. Not targeting spots in Florida that also have high crime rates. It's just this is he thinks this is his way of embarrassing Democratic governors. Of course, it's not going to work out that way. The Page of Pentacles, the message is going to be sent, and people are going to hear it. They're not going to hear the message that he's sending, though. What they're going to hear is, "What the hell are you doing?" And the message that he's sending is, oh, these Democratic people can't control their own cities, so we have to step in. That's not what people are going to hear. Uh, we get the Two of Swords, blind choices in the environment around, and the Eight of Wands. It'll be quick. Uh, it won't be long last. The National Guard will not be there for a long time. Week, 2 weeks at most. And most of that time, they'll just be sitting on the streets picking up trash, similar to what we saw in DC. The star card of protection. This is good, and the environment around. And then we get the Seven of Pentacles. The seeds have already been planted that this is illegal. This is not within his rights. So this is going to infuriate people more. People are really kind of tired of him trampling on the Constitution. So, you know, we'll get the full reason why he's doing it. The message he's trying to send is not the message that will be heard. And the seeds have already been planted that this will be illegal. So, it's not going to go over very well. Assuming it happens, it feels like it will, but there's some health issues that could intervene as well. Um, there won't be like a big announcement, it'll just be done and they'll be there. And the message that he sends again is going to be counterbalanced by someone in the government leaking to the press the real reasons why, which are quite political and quite racist, which is not surprising. So I do think they're going to move ahead with this plan, at least at this time. It feels that way. But the truth ultimately will come out, and the choices that he makes ultimately don't matter on like the grand scheme of things. I mean, they're going to be terrible while they're happening. But we have the star card for protection here. So Chicago will come out of this okay. Uh, and again, there's some health issues. If the health goes really bad, this might not happen at all. But Uh, Underneath, we have the Ten of Swords. This is his complete and utter downfall. That's just what it is. So, yeah, it's actions like this that make the argument that he's acting like an authoritarian easy to make. So, that's just the way it is. Okay, so will there be a government shutdown? Now, I don't think so, but let's throw some cards on this. Will there be a government shutdown? I unfortunately think the Democrats are going to cave and probably help the Republicans out. And I maybe shouldn't say unfortunately, because maybe it is the right thing to do. I mean, I don't know the inner workings of the government. So um, it does feel like the Democrats could use this to get some stuff, but in the end, I think they're just focused on winning the next election. And that's kind of their focus. What do we need to know about a potential government shutdown? Nah, I mean, we get the Queen of Pentacles. People want stability, not just the people, but the politicians as well. And the Ten of Cups, families, reunions, and celebrations. These are ultimately who get hurt during these shutdowns, right? The national parks close, for example, um, preventing people from visiting the national parks. The high priestess. There are things going on behind the scenes. I think Johnson and Thune are negotiating with Democrats as we speak about this. The Queen of Wands, they know it'd be met really harshly. And since they're the party in power and they have majorities in both the House and the Senate, it will be blamed on Republicans. It just will be. There's no playing politics and trying to blame this on Democrats. We get the Knight of Wands, the messages being sent, and the Hierophant, the church, the court, the Pope, um, the government. Yeah, I mean, the government needs to be functioning, otherwise it's going to just make Republicans in even a worse position. Unlikely partnerships. This is Democrats helping the Republicans out. What they get in exchange for it, we might not know right away. Um, but I think they will get something. But they'll have to hide it from the felon, right? So then the Nine of Wands, some sort of guardrails is what Democrats get put into this bill. I don't know if it has to do with protecting some voting rights or something along those lines. Uh, the Ace of Pentacles. This is the new reality. Republicans, well, I don't know if it's new, but Republicans just can't govern. It's been that way pretty much my entire adult life since that Republicans won the House going back in 2010, right? They haven't been able to govern since then. Uh, so people want stability. If the government shuts down, it would be a pretty harsh financial reality for a number of people. The Democrats are willing to do some negotiating uh, behind the scenes. They're not willing to talk about it out front. And there'll probably only be, 6 or 7 Democrats in the House that vote for it, and 6 or 7 senators or 7 senators that vote to for cloture on the bill. Ultimately, it's about families, reunions, and celebrations and protecting them. The Republicans would take the ultimate blame, but I think Democrats already know they have a big enough hand to play now that they're not in it to hurt people. So the government will stay open, but the Democrats managed to put in some guardrails somewhere along the lines here. Not exactly sure what that looks like. When we get closer to the negotiations, we'll look at that a little bit closer. Messages coming forward, and the three of swords, sabotage. Yeah, some of the MAGA wing are going to feel quite upset by that, um, by the bill. But the Sun card, ultimately, the truth is going to come out, and um, the truth is that anybody that was worried about the deficit would not have voted for the horrible budget bill. So it's hard to argue otherwise. Let's see here. Okay, so are they giving him something? Are they giving the felon something to prop him up? Is he on dialysis, getting blood transfusions? Something was going on this past weekend. It wasn't just him playing golf. He was gone for a while. They can try to spin that any way they want, releasing old pictures, possibly some AI generated pictures of him. To me, he did not look well at the press conference. I don't know what other people saw. To me, he looked like somebody who was just trying to hold it together long enough until he could get off camera. That's what I saw. Are they propping him up? I think so. I mean, I just, there's no avoiding death. Death and the Three of Swords pop up all the time for him. It's going to happen. But I've never seen it to where like he's in the hospital for a month and then passes. That's not the way it's going to work. It's going to be boom dead. He's going to seem, relatively normal to those that aren't super observant and then boom dead. That's the way it's going to go. That's the way it goes for most people. I mean, those that um, go through hospice care are the only ones that really kind of are foreseeing these things or that get terminal illnesses. Um, and even then, it's still, you don't know the exact time, right? And a lot of people don't end up in the hospital. They just go. The Page of Swords here. This is going to get leaked. There's going to be an expose, like I talked about in yesterday's video. His dementia is also going to come out. They're doing things to hide that as well. Uh, and the world card completion. They're just trying to figure out a way to get this to death without him looking wildly crazy, which we'll get into in the next question when we talk about what did I see his reaction was when he was asked about this. The Six of Cups, we all aging gracefully. That's what they're trying to do. I don't know that's what's going to happen. This is a new reality, the Ace of Pentacles. And if one plan doesn't work, try another. The Eight of Coins or the Eight of Pentacles. They're already on plan E, D, and F at this point. If pumping him full of oxygenated blood makes him feel better for 24 hours, that's what they're doing. If doing some sort of dialysis makes him feel better, that's what they're gonna do. Even though at this point it's probably not really medically recommended, it's probably more medically like, you know, most people would probably choose to stop treatment, but obviously it's everybody's choice, and this is what they're choosing. He's quite ill. Like this isn't just it's not just dementia, it's not just congestive heart failure, it's not just kidney problems, it's not just liver problems. It's like everything. The whole body's just starting to fail. That's what's really going on here. And they wanted to send a message. So, you know, ultimately they're trying to get him to death, I guess is a way to say it. without embarrassing himself, um, to gracefully get there, I guess. I think they accomplished that. I've always seen him going very quickly. They're on plan E, F, and G at this time. Doctors are just trying whatever they can to, to it's like palliative care, right? It's they're not trying to cure anything. They're just trying to make things comfortable, um, and to prevent, you know, as much embarrassment as possible because their patient is not sane enough to resign and go away in the way that he probably should. I do think we get information about this, about him being quite ill, and about how even crazier the ideas that he was suggesting were than the ones that got implemented. But ultimately, we don't find out about this until the completion has happened, which is the end of his life cycle. So, yeah, they're propping him up. I mean, he's quite confined otherwise. He's really not capable of doing a lot. Yeah, can he go golfing? Sure. As long as he's in a golf cart, right? And it's not too hot. He's got lots of anxiety, and we get complete and utter downfall. This is actually a pretty powerful combination here as we go from the Eight of Swords to the Nine of Swords to the Ten of Swords. I mean, we are heading to progression to the Ten of Swords, which is the end of this dark cycle. So, I stand by what I've said in the past. I think this happens quickly, but it's not that far off. So, okay, so what did he think about actually being asked about his health? Uh, I think he was quite restrained about it, compared to what I sensed. I sensed like an overwhelming uh, anger brewing, but for whatever reason, it didn't quite happen that way. Whether this is because he's being, pumped full of drugs that kind of keep him calm, that could be. Um, I also felt a little bit of his mind wandering in a direction towards visualizing the end, which is a sign that he's pretty close to it. So let's see, what did he actually think about this? What do you think about this? Kind of like a gut punch, it's kind of like a how dare they kind of thing, but at the same time, like I think he thought he had been pulling off his health fairly well. The truth is he hasn't, but um, yeah, we get the Eight of Swords, feeling trapped, feeling confined, feeling destined to this fate. Like he realizes this is his fate, and there's no escaping that. Um, we get the the Six of Wands, the victory card in the environment around. And the question is whose victory? And it's not his, right? It's victory for the press and for us. The King of Wands, he realizes how inarticulate he is. Um, I mean, deep down, he knows he's an idiot, right? He does. He, of course, would never say that. Uh, we get the Nine of Swords, anxiety. He's very, he's when he talked about being worried about getting into heaven and his soul being good, that's exactly how he feels. He's quite anxious about this. He fears death, which is unfortunate for him, but You deal your own hand sometimes. Uh, the Queen of Swords, I'm sure after this presser was done, he was back to himself, um, berating the people that talked about these questions. And we get the Ten of Pentacles thinking about his inheritance that definitely flashed through his mind, his legacy. What's he going to leave his children? They've very much been at the forefront in the world, everything coming to an end, the completion of life, life flashing before your eyes. It's kind of a real thing. So I think that was kind of a little bit of a moment there as well. And the Four of Pentacles, this longing for stability, and really realizing how quickly the stability left. Because the truth was, 2 years ago he was probably pretty stable medically, like physically, not mentally. In the Wheel of Fortune, life's a gamble, so it's just not going to go his way this time. So he feels quite trapped, but he's still the same mean man we know. Um, but he realizes he's losing the gamble. Uh, his life kind of flashed before his eyes. Unfortunately, he didn't take any meaning from it. He didn't learn anything from it. And he's going to go off speaking in the same angry, fiery tones he always has. We, the people, get victory while he gets anxiety. We get the hope for stability while he contemplates his inheritance to his children and his legacy. So, and underneath we have the Five of Wands, this internal battle inside of his head. And then we get the card for the greedy merchant as well. And then the Eight of Cups, walking away from things that don't serve us. Uh, if he could have, he would have walked out, but he knew he had to do this presser. And since all these rumors were swirling over the weekend, there was no choice. I have a feeling we won't see him on a regular basis. Like he might pop in an hour or two a day, but for any extended period of time, we just won't see it. This is the way it's going to be. So, all right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.